Now, mental health care load, everybody has been talking about this. So the numbers are there to see. Major mental disorders in India, minor mental disorders. And as far as the Banyan goes, a large number of people are people who are affected with psychosis and schizophrenia in particular. So what really are the pathways to care? Now, we've established that yes, poverty, mental illness, lack of access, being in rural areas is a disadvantage. But what are the pathways to care for the rural poor in particular? So based on what we have, our interactions with clients over the past 17 years, temples, churches and mosques, which is good because it provides a nice, soothing, pleasant environment for them. There's a lot of acceptance. To exorcism. Now this sometimes doesn't prove to be a very interesting option because there is a lot of expenditure that takes place at this point, though people would like to believe otherwise. 3, community care. In rural areas, the community is extremely supportive, at least in most areas. So the idea of community fostering is an easy idea then to encourage in rural communities because the extent of stigma is far lesser, the extent of sensitivity is far greater. The DMHP itself, so as a result of that, treatment is supposed to be provided at the PHC level, at the taluk level and the district level, and by treatment we don't just mean medication, we mean emergency services at the PHC level, which means provision of beds in the case of emergencies at the PHC level. Home-based care, when I say home-based care, obviously because they cannot afford it, I'm talking about the caregiver really providing that home-based care. And finally, private and government hospitals in the city. So that is as far as the rural communities. As far as the urban communities, it changes a little bit. So you have the outpatient services of the general hospitals. You have the mental hospital, which is located at the headquarters of most states. You have the private clinics and other hospitals. You have NGOs. You have corporation clinics. Like for example, in Chennai, we have 265 corporation clinics, which ought to be providing the psychiatric drugs, in which case different pockets can access different facilities and do not have to then load the Institute of Mental Health or the various other general psychiatric OPs in the general hospitals, but that is not to be. That's not really the case now. But we have been speaking to the city health officer, and he's very inclined to do something like this. Then, of course, in addition to that, urban poor also very often, because of the extent of stigma, unlike the people in the rural areas, try and look at long stay services. Now, this is the trend that we have noticed, that if the person is in the rural area, the person is happy being in the community. If the person is in the urban area, there somehow seems to be a need for a long-term setup, which could be restrictive or non-restrictive. It depends. Now, for those socioeconomically disadvantaged, I don't want to, under any circumstances, sound, what shall I say, biased in favor of people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. But the reality is that their sufferings, while the pain is universal, their sufferings are far more, what shall I say, intense. So with those who are socioeconomically advantaged, they have access to private psychiatric nursing homes, mental hospitals, again they access home-based care, but in this case, in addition to the caregiver, they're able to provide for a nurse or a social worker or a carer. They use other alternative systems of treatment like say Reiki or pranic healing, or they have access to aromatherapy, various other things. They also visit psychotherapists more often, so counseling is a part of their setup. Daycare services like SCARF offers daycare services, ASHA offers daycare services. Of course, temples also remains a part of their agenda. So you see faith playing a key role in all the different groups. Now, what do the clients say? So we've looked at the pathways, we've looked at the correlation between poverty, we've looked at the overall load, mental health load. But what really do the clients say? So they talk about their most important problem being stigma, discrimination, and the attitude. And what sorts of attitude? Attitude sometimes beginning from the family, to attitude of a layperson, to attitude of the common man, to attitude of filmmakers, to attitude of extended relatives, sometimes of friends, to attitudes when they access services. Because while we look at services from a unidimensional perspective of medicines and care and treatment and counseling, I think attitude is a subtlety that most of us choose to neglect or ignore. Attitude seems to be really key in the lives of people with mental health issues, and that's probably one of the reasons that several people continue accessing facilities at the Banyan. Because somehow we try and provide an environment and an attitude that is probably conducive to their treatment as far as possible. Yeah? PHC, they say that, now this is, like I mentioned earlier, not something unique to Tamil Nadu, but this is right across the country. Several people who visit the PHCs say that yes, maybe medicines are available, but several times medicines are not available. Most times, in fact, medicines are not available. To date, despite the DMHP, we have only 125 of the 627 districts covered by the district mental health program. I know that the amount of monies have been increased to 2,100 crores, but of that you said 400 crores, but Dr. Isaac, I think only about 23 crores, or now it's doubled a little bit, 25 more crores has been spent so far, which means that the whole percentage that was allocated was cut down and trimmed, and further now only about 40 odd crores has been spent, which is not a very pleasant bit of information, because unfortunately the need is so high, but the resources, despite being available, are either not being utilized or simply not being dispersed. So that's a huge problem that we see. Not enough focus. Medicines are not enough. Now when we talk care, what is the concept of care? Care is not about medicines. Care is care sort of is all-encompassing. So care has a component of medication, care has a huge component of counseling, care has a huge component of social interventions, care has, like Bhargavi has been telling me, a lot of diet. Now these are all not sort of factors that will increase your costing, but just calls for slightly more effective implementation of the district mental health program, where the people who are training are attuned or are aware of various aspects that could contribute to the well-being of the person, instead of having a very unidimensional medical approach alone. While the medical approach is key, nobody is saying that there is no need for it. It's absolutely essential, but these supplementary inputs are equally important. And the concept of peer counseling is something that's not caught in here, but we found with the Banyan that if you have a group, a support group, or if you have the concept of peer counselors, it somehow seems to set a very positive trend. And I think in addition to all the training that we are providing to doctors and social workers and psychologists and increasing their breed, there is also an important sort of area that we need to focus on, and that is that maybe group homes sort of setup, or maybe in hostels. But housing provision is something that we lack hugely. Legal services, and finally, most importantly, follow-up facilities, especially in rural areas. With a total lack of awareness in the rural areas and with not very focused interventions at the PHC level, follow-up seems to be one of the key reasons why the DMHP program is failing. And at our CMHP program, at our community mental health program in Kovalam, I think the use of community workers has worked extremely well to our advantage, because we have a very high rate of attendance to the clinic for various factors and a very low rate of relapse. Group homes, self-help groups, and finally, I think what is very critical also, which you will see in the research copies which I have already circulated to many of you, that the disability allowance, according to the PWD Act, especially for people from the low socioeconomic group, while this seems like a very small amount, but it actually makes a huge difference. And there is a whole entire research, which I'm not going to go into the details, but there's a research that Dr. Lakshmi and Miriam have worked on, which clearly indicates that quality of life improves. The sample group was really 50, so it was small, but it's indicative. The self-esteem improves, and while we may think that this money is only for small groups, it will only make a small change in the lives of the person, that's certainly not the truth. They're able to, it affects them not just in material terms, but also in philosophical terms. So they feel a lot better about themselves. Not that money has anything to do with feeling better, but just certain intangible concepts of buying or whatever else improves as a result of that. So when we talk about care, I think it's important that we talk about all of this. So we talk about interventions, we talk about the DMHP, we talk about housing, and we talk about entitlements. Similarly, when the caregivers talk, what is top on their list is, what do I do if there is an emergency? So if my ward relapses, I take them to the PHC, but unfortunately the PHC is not equipped to take care of that emergency. Medicines may be available, but I don't have 24/7 care or access at the PHC. Even within that limited time, I do not have access. Even during the limited time, I don't have beds if I need to get admitted. Unlike in the case, what a PHC is actually supposed to be is to provide beds to different people with mental health, with various issues, within at least a limited capacity, and then they should be bumped up to the taluk and the district hospital. But unfortunately, that doesn't really happen. Housing, out of pocket, employment seem to be the second largest demand of both clients and caregivers. That, all right, emergency services, access to care, but what happens after that? I do not have options to employment. And finally, the very distressing thing, what after me? So that is again a huge problem that several caregivers constantly are worried about. What happens after me? What if the person is not able to take care of himself or herself? So